People expect motherhood to be natural, instinctive, and straightforward. But for many women, the experience is a completely different story. It's a becoming called matrescence, a deep internal metamorphosis that unfolds through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and the day-to-day work of caring for a child. And yet, so much of this experience goes unspoken. The world focuses on bouncing back, staying grateful, and doing it all. But it rarely talks about what this transformation actually feels like on the inside. Or that loving your child fully doesn't always mean loving every part of motherhood. In today's episode, I sit down with Danielle Garrett, a registered psychotherapist in Ontario, a registered clinical counselor in BC, and a specialist in crisis intervention, family work, and attachment theory. Together, we explore why the emotional journey into motherhood is so profound, why it's often minimized, and what women deserve to know before and after they step into this new chapter. My hope is that you walk away from this conversation feeling seen, that whatever you experienced or are experiencing, it matters, that it was real, and that you are not alone in it. I'm Camille, and this is Kind of Bold. Danielle, we talk a lot about pregnancy and birth, and much less so about matrescence. The term matrescence was coined over 50 years ago, 73 actually, by medical anthropologist Dana Raphael, as she describes the process of becoming a mother, encompassing the intense physical, emotional, and social changes that occurred during the transition. But it's only become mainstream very recently. In fact, I have come across some posts on social media petitioning for it to be added to the dictionary. So could you talk about what matrescence means for you as a person, as a parent, but also as part of your practice, and perhaps what it typically looks like in your field of work?
You know, I'm shocked to hear that it's been around that long, because you're right. It's
Yeah.
only really been talked about recently. So 1973, I mean, I feel like we're really behind now. But yeah, I like to explain it kind of like it's similar to adolescence in terms of like,
Oh, yes.
yeah, like someone really experiencing a major identity shift. And that's what becoming a mother is. So it encompasses everything, like you mentioned, the physical, emotional, social, psychological. It's a huge transition. And motherhood changes everything, right? Our bodies, our emotional state, our friendships, how we connect with people, our families, our partners is a really profound thing, right? And I like to talk to mothers about this, specifically about the shift that happens in our brain, because it's not talked about enough. And I think sometimes people like to throw around postpartum a lot. And not to say that women don't have postpartum, because absolutely it's a huge factor. But sometimes matrescence plays such a huge role in that, and the shift of our brain where it actually becomes more sensitive to threat, emotions, our baby's cues. It's like a rewiring that happens. And other words, I think when you look at postpartum mothers out there, we're not being dramatic or too sensitive. Our brain and our body is literally rewiring. It's such a beautiful experience. But I think a lot of mothers kind of coin it as like an identity shift, right?
Okay.
So in my personal experience and professional, I talk to mothers all the time about what this identity shift looks like, because it's very different for everybody. It's a loss of independence, confusion around who are we now? Who were we before? Because it's like we leave pieces of us behind and we're trying to like put these pieces back together, but we don't know where they fit yet because we haven't really kind of come out on the other end.
Studies show shifts in areas involving emotion, threat detection, bonding. In fact, the brain undergoes something called synaptic pruning, which is the reducing of gray matter in regions associated with social cognition and empathy to improve efficiency in caring for a newborn, which is really interesting because essentially our brain changes and adapts to a new situation. And sometimes these changes can be long lasting. And this is what we call mommy brain.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So in your practice, do women come to you with these kind of questions? Like, I just have memory issues. I feel like I'm not the same person that I used to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. We call it the brain fog.
Brain fog.
Yeah.
Okay.
And honestly, I would say of 99% of women that I've spoken to in my practice experience it. You know, I walked upstairs to do something and then I couldn't remember and I kind of like looked around and forgot and then felt frustrated because it's like, what's happening to me? Or they forget everything, all the time, leave things in the car, leave things at home, can't remember this. Our brains are just struggling to keep up, right? We see it with like high achieving women who were extremely professional and had a really high job, and then all of a sudden go on maternity leave, and then they start to experience feeling like a failure.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And
I felt that.
Yeah, me too. It's been hard, right? Like, what do you mean I'm just going to stay at home with my baby now? But I also don't want anyone else to touch my baby or stay with them because I need to be here, but I need to be at work as well.
I remember when I went back to work, working on files that I used to be so comfortable with and so efficient in, all of a sudden became really difficult. And my colleagues would talk to me about stuff and I'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And yeah, for several months, I had been preoccupied with my son and doing very, very different things throughout the day. And getting back to that brain gymnastics was just really challenging.
It is. It's very hard. What's going on at home or at daycare, or who's looking after them? What's nap time like? And so how can we possibly begin to focus on work when we're also focused on what's going on with our baby? And so finding that balance is really hard.
It's probably also related to this expectation that we're supposed to bounce back and like get back to our old self. I'm talking about weight loss and fitting in old jeans, but also, like we said, going back to work and this expectation that we're going to be performing right away exactly the same way as if nothing happened.
Yes.
Like, is it realistic to expect this quick return to pre-pregnancy life? Why does society want us to pretend that we didn't go through this major transition?
You know what? I'm really glad that you were talking about this because it's something that really gets to me. So when we're pregnant and we're kind of preparing for maternity leave, there's a lot more understanding and patience and kindness of like, oh, they're very pregnant. She's going off soon. We're going to train their replacement. We're like throwing them a baby party or whatever it looks like. And then they send them on their way. But coming back, like, it's kind of like you hit the ground running. There's no leaning into it. Like, I mean, at least for me, it was kind of like you just start back up again. Not every woman has the opportunity to have a gentle startup back into the workforce. It's kind of like, oh, Danielle's coming back today. Say goodbye to her replacement or whatever that looks like, and then we move forward. And it is really hard. I would say it's probably one of the hardest identity shifts and pressures that women feel when going back to work, because society glorifies motherhood, right? But then they forget to mention how hard it truly is, and they don't want to help support it.
That is so true. I had never thought of it that way, how much attention we get during pregnancy. And then the moment the baby is born, the attention is on the baby.
Yes.
And then we forget about the mother. It's like we were just a vehicle in this process. Can you speak to what gets missed when we focus strictly on the baby and not on the mother, and kind of acknowledging that experience during matrescence?
It's such a profound experience. Like, matrescence is so at its core just the vulnerability of women, honestly. I think what gets missed, it's mental health, right?
Yes.
It's the psychological impact that matrescence has on a woman. And so from postpartum anxiety, intrusive thoughts, I think that's something that gets missed.
Oh my God. Yes. Mental health, 100%. I mean, I've always had anxiety, but I didn't realize how anxious I was in my postpartum phase. Thinking back of that period, that definitely had postpartum anxiety. I was in a state of hypervigilance.
Yes.
There was family history that led me to worry a lot about my child, but I think a lot of women experience this regardless of what their family history is. It's like all of a sudden we are back in the state of nature defending our offspring. I don't know. And then we're like, on the lookout for anything that might happen.
Yes. Yeah. I think postpartum anxiety and intrusive thoughts is probably the most common symptoms I see in my practice.
Okay.
Women think that there's something wrong with that, but I think that's something that we really need to normalize. Is I don't know a single mom who doesn't have anxiety or intrusive thoughts. It's very normal.
Wow.
It's very normal.
That's just so validating.
Yeah, absolutely. And, women come into my office and they say, Danielle, I'm experiencing these intrusive thoughts and I know that they're not real, but I can't stop them. And they have a really hard time accepting that. And I think the biggest thing to mention is that we can't control it. We can't make it go
Yeah.
away. When it comes, we want to make room for it. We want to notice it. We want to make room for it and then let it pass. Am I safe? Is this real? Is it facts or opinion? Like, we really want to kind of ground ourselves in those moments. And it's hard to do.
Why does it happen? Like, do you know of any reason why all of a sudden our brain starts building this catastrophic what if scenarios? A lot of the time it would happen just as I was about to fall asleep. You know how sometimes you're just about to fall asleep and you feel like you're falling? It was kind of like that same feeling, but it was just a thought that would just come to the forefront like that out of nowhere. I would, for example, picture my child falling down the stairs and then cracking his head open. And this would just be like not even 2 seconds of a thought, but it's just like, where's that coming from? And then I would just be shaking in bed. I was like, oh my God, what if this happens? And yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly where they come from. And I've looked into it and I don't know if we actually know the answer. But I know, like, when I think about it, the hormonal changes that happens is it massive. Like, our bodies just go through so much. We're feeling flooded. We are not sleeping. We carry the invisible load, and it's all a lot. And then I always think back to I love Brene Brown and her work.
Yeah. Oh my God, so do I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her work is very prevalent in the work that I do. I use it a lot. And so I remember she had explained human beings have this innate need to rehearse tragedy.
Oh.
And I think about that a lot. It's like when we have joy in our life, it can be taken. And so if we rehearse this tragedy, this intrusive thought happens, and it's almost kind of like that. And I align that kind of like, am I rehearsing this tragedy in fear of it being taken from me?
It's like if we rehearse it, when it happens, we're going to be ready for it.
Right. Which is hilarious because we're never.
Which is hilarious because you can never.
You can never. Yeah. It's just our way of thinking we have control, right?
Do you know if this happens to men as well and fathers?
So it's funny that you asked that. I don't know. And I haven't really seen research on it, but I have this conversation with my husband because I said, do you think like this? Like, does this happen? Like, one day I was driving home from work and I had this intrusive thought of like my car going over the bridge. And Kevin was like, no, I don't think that's ever happened to me. I was like, great. That's awesome. Love that for you.
Good for you. Well, then. I was hoping to feel a little less alone, but there we go.
But I think that really says a lot, right? Because I think that kind of goes in with the invisible load that, like, do men experience this? And I really encourage, like, every woman listening, have this conversation with your husband. Do you experience intrusive thoughts? What are they like if you do? Like,
let's do it.
Yeah,
let's start this trend.
Let's have the conversation because maybe they do. My husband is very calm and I borrow calmness from him. So that's amazing. But maybe there are men out there that experience that in parenthood. I don't know.
I want to talk a little bit about how we feel like we need to have it all together during this phase. It's like we need to prove that we can do it and that we can meet societal expectations. I think at the hospital when I had my son, they could see right away that I was very anxious because they assigned a postpartum nurse to me, which is fantastic, right? Like, I was like, wow, this is great. And this person would come to my house, and instead of welcoming the help and leaning into it, I was doing everything I could to look perfect in my parenting and prove that I, in fact, did not need the help. I wonder if there's this fear of being vulnerable during that phase too, that prevents women from getting the help that they need. Because I think if I had been honest with myself and honest with that person, she could have perhaps diagnosed me with anxiety.
Sometimes I just feel like, we talked about society tends to glorify motherhood. And it's like, well, I'm a woman. And so my body needs to do a certain thing. I need to carry my baby. I need to feed my baby. I need to make sure that everything is perfect and done right. Or maybe then I won't be as much of a woman as I thought or as society holds me to, right? This pressure. And for women, the pressure just starts from birth. It's like, find a partner, establish yourself in your career, buy a home, get married, have children. But don't forget about your job or your friends or your family.
Yeah. Don't forget to do it all.
and the house duties, right? And so then motherhood comes along and it's like, well, be the perfect mother. And it's like, well, what is that? What does that really mean for people, right? And at what point are you sacrificing your identity? And all of this is kind of like a recipe for burnout, exhaustion. it can significantly impact your mental health.
Yeah, what does it mean to be a good mother?
Right.
What's a good mother?
Right. And I think that is one of the biggest questions in my practice is, am I a good mom? Am I doing enough? Did I do enough? Was I there enough? Did I show up? Did I hug them enough? And it breaks my heart because I always say, I look back at them and I think parents that don't care enough don't ask those questions.
Oh, yes, yes.
Right?
So if you question your parenting, you must be doing something right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you're sitting here questioning, did I do enough? Absolutely, you're doing enough because it matters that much to you. It matters to show up.
Do you think our mothers and our grandmothers would question their parenting? No. Or is it because we have access to so much information, we have social media, and we compare ourselves?
I always am a firm believer that people do what they can with what they have in those moments. You don't know what you don't know. And back then, my mom didn't have access to Google something or jump on to Chat GPT and be like, is this normal or what should I be doing? Like they just had to figure it out, and they relied on their parents a lot, their grandmothers, like their mothers, right? And it's just different times. It's totally different times. And I think looking back at it now, I know my mom says, I wish I would have known more. I wish I could have done more. I wish I knew now. Oh. I knew then what I know now, I just think that that's motherhood. The question is it ever enough? I don't know.
I wonder what's harder, not knowing at the time and realizing now that you could have done things differently, or knowing too much now and struggling to deal with this overwhelming amount of information and the expectations that come with it.
I think that is what makes motherhood, parenthood, so much harder for this generation, because we have everything at our fingertips. And with that comes judgment. Am I doing enough? Should I be doing this? And should I be doing that? Should I be doing this? That comes up in session all the time with clients. And
oh my God, that really was so hard.
It's so hard. And I like to explain it like should is wrapped in guilt and shame.
Interesting.
Let's get rid of should, because
let's get rid of should.
Yeah. I hate
Hashtag.
it. Yeah. And when you can reframe it into like, I get to do this, or I want to do this, or this is all I have right now. I'm at capacity. This is what I have to offer. And that's enough.
How do we get rid of the noise though? Like if we are active on social media, if we have friends who are pregnant, have kids, like how do we just focus on ourselves, listen to our guts?
Yeah.
And get rid of the should?
Yeah. I hate social media for kids, especially. I think there is a place for social media, and it can become really hard for mothers. And so it was for me. I remember I originally got TikTok when I was pregnant because everyone was like, oh my God, there's so many resources on there. You can just type things in the search engine and it's so helpful when you're a new mom. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to do that. And in the beginning, it was great. And then let me tell you how quickly I ended up in a dark hole of TikTok. And there is some really, really terrible stuff on TikTok. So I remember being postpartum with my second, and she was a hard baby. And I was in a dark room a lot, catering to her sleep and trying to figure out to survive and just make sure that my toddler was okay and my husband was working. And it was really hard. And I ended up like in a deep, dark P. Diddy hole on TikTok. And I was like, no, this is it. I'm done. I needed to get out of that. So I deleted it and I forgot about it. And it's so helpful for my mental health. And so I always say to moms, when it seems to be too much, when it's too heavy and you're just constantly finding yourself comparing to others, it's time to really take a step back because you know exactly what to do. Like you're the best resource for your baby. You know them better than anyone. And so lean into that, like that inner voice that tells you, because you already know the answer. You're the perfect mom for that baby.
I wish we could all believe this. No, and I believe you. You're very convincing. It's just that for me, because I had underlying anxiety, it was hard for me to tell the difference between my gut feeling and just fear. So, right, rehearsing that tragedy that you talked about earlier. So I couldn't quite tell the difference. And so I did rely on Google. And of course, that wasn't always the best strategy, but I felt like That's all I had. That's the thing. It's such a lonely experience in a way. Even though you might be or might not be surrounded by a village, it's a very lonely experience
It is.
having that responsibility.
You know what? I'm glad you brought up the village because that's something that comes up a lot. And not a lot of people have a village, right? Um, there's an app. It's called the Peanut app.
Okay.
Have you heard of it?
No.
So when I had my kids, I lived in British Columbia and I'm from Ontario. And so I didn't really have a village. My husband and I had moved out there by ourselves and then decided to have kids. And so it was just the two of us. And so I was trying to find a village, and it was a really great experience for me. I found a group of women who all had daughters the same year I did. And so those dark nights of breastfeeding at 3 a.m., I had a group chat where I could be like, is anybody else awake? And they'd be like, yep, we are. Like, and we would just connect, like, does this poop look normal to you? Is this like, and it was great, like our first night out as moms, when we leave our baby with our husbands and we get out of the house for a minute and get some coffee or just go for a walk by the river. I think I had my baby last. And so they were all ahead of me by a few months. And I remember they were holding their babies and I'm like crying, my baby's crying, and they're like pushing the stroller and they're like, Danielle, it's totally fine. We've got you. Like, we can take as
that's
long.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it's like finding a village is the best thing that you can do. And it doesn't really matter what that looks like. Some people need daycare, and that's the village. That was part of our village. We needed support because we didn't have family there. And so find a village wherever you can. And whatever that looks like for you is perfect as long as you feel supported.
Yeah, we didn't have a village either.
Yeah.
So it was hard. I'd like to talk about how the success of the physical and cognitive development of the child falls on the parent, oftentimes the mother, when it should be a natural occurring thing, right? So they're like, you need to stimulate your baby's brain and you need to make them do this. There's so many supposed requirements. And so it's just hard to keep up, right? Like, it adds to the load.
It does add to the load. Absolutely. Like these milestones, these markers that baby needs to hit.
Yes, the milestones. Yeah.
And I will say I experienced that with my first. And I think a lot of parents do. We're like, are they meeting the markers? Are they where they're supposed to be? And again, that like comparison comes in. And so again, easier said than done. But in session, I like to remind parents that comparison is the thief of joy. And so if we can kind of quiet the noise and just enjoy our baby and forget the markers right now, do that. I remember us worrying about Abigail and her vocabulary. She wasn't speaking, and I was so nervous. And then all of a sudden one day she just started speaking, and it was just like fine. And so I had been anxious about that for a few months. And, a lot of parents go through that. It's just such a hard thing because we want our babies to be successful and meet these markers.
Exactly.
It's hard.
It's like, what if I don't follow the advice that's out there?
Right.
What if I decide to do my own thing? And then there comes the guilt.
The guilt. Oh, mom guilt. Yes. Mom guilt. Yes. At the time, my mother-in-law had shared this information with me, and it was just like nonchalant advice. And she was like, don't worry, kids aren't going to school with soothers in their mouth and bottles in their hand and still in diapers. Like, they're going to be fine. Just let the timeline roll off your back, and whatever baby's ready and you're ready, it'll all work out. And at the time I was like, oh, she just doesn't get it. But then you can learn to become a little bit more secure in your motherhood and have more confidence as baby grows. And when you start to feel less anxious, then you start to believe it and you see it happen and you're like, yeah, this is reassuring. She was right. It will all work out.
Yeah, looking back, I wish I hadn't worried about certain things that we're going to come with time. And yeah.
But I think that too, right? Like allowing the space to be okay with that, because in the moment you're so anxious, and if someone's like, don't be anxious, it's going to be okay, it's just annoying because you're not. Easier said.
It does quite the opposite, and then you become angry.
Yes.
And speaking of anger, I wanted to talk about mom rage, because we talked about intrusive thoughts, we talked about guilt and all of that, but there's also mom rage. This intense wave of anger or frustration, and we know it comes from chronic overload, burnout, sleep deprivation, and the invisible mental labor. And We again feel guilty about it when it happens, when we lose our shit, essentially. We're in fact victims of being overstimulated.
Mom rage is really hard for a lot of women to share out loud because there is so much shame and guilt wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot. I experienced a lot of mom rage, and it was really hard for me because I was like, is this the kind of person that I am? Is this the kind of mom that I am? And so when I talk to clients about it, we have to remove ourselves from it. It's not who we are, it's how we're responding. And we're flooded. We are sleep deprived. We are overwhelmed. We are experiencing intrusive thoughts. We are experiencing the overstimulation of everything every single day. And we talked about the noise, right? And I like to kind of reference the original Grinch, where he's like,
Let's go.
where he's like complaining or like explaining why he hates Christmas. And he's like, the noise, noise, noise. And my husband
yes.
my husband makes fun of me now because I'll be like, the noise, I can't take the noise. And I just like imagine that scene from The Grinch. And I'm like, this is what it's like for moms, where it's the constant noise. And when you
literally and figuratively,
yes,
right? Like
yes.
it's noise if you have multiple children, for example,
Yes.
and they're loud, but also just the amount of information, the invisible labor, the stress, the anxiety, all of that is the noise.
Yeah. And it compounds. And then it's just like this volcano eruption that is mom rage, right? And it's like, well, it didn't just start here now. It's everything you just said, right? It's the noise, the flooded, the expectations, the pressure, the perfection, everything that you can't keep up with, the invisible load. And then all of a sudden, one small thing happens and we snap, and then we end up in a shame cycle.
Yeah. And, I didn't know that motherhood could be such a sensory experience. I didn't think of how it would overstimulate all my senses. And like you said, when you reach that point, it's like a volcano that erupts and it's too late. It's all out of you.
Right. And I think that's the hardest part for mothers. And so I like to kind of bring that back to what we talk about in session is that's going to happen and it's okay. You're not a bad mother. You are experiencing a really challenging part of life right now. It's a season. We will get through it. But how you respond to your child afterwards is the most important. So the
repairing. Yeah.
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 Because we're going to be upset, right? It happens.
So
too much.
How can we make that information available? I have this coworker who's pregnant at the moment, and I really, really wanted to recommend Matrescence by Lucy Jones because I absolutely love that book. But at the same time, it's a very real, raw, honest depiction of the transition into motherhood. And I was thinking, do I recommend it? Do I not? Is it going to scare her? Maybe this is not what she wants to read about. So how do we get this information out there in a way that's helpful and respectful of different people's sensitivities around the subject matter?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just simply asking, like, how are you feeling about motherhood? Do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns? What are your fears? Because you're right, a lot of people don't talk about it. And some women go into motherhood and childbirth not knowing anything. And that can be scary too, right? Then what do you mean I'm going to bleed for 2 weeks after I give birth? I didn't know that. So some people really don't know what to expect. And so I think sometimes I ask them, like, do you want the raw version or the censored version?
Oh, yeah. But sometimes you don't know that you need the raw version.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You think you've got it. Like, I thought, oh, I'm good. I'm all ready to go. Because again, I was approaching this as I approach everything, like a project. I've got my to-do list. I've read the information. I've made up my mind about things. I've got my plan. This is type A Camille is ready.
Yeah.
Right? And if someone had come to me and said, do you want the raw version? I don't know what I would have said. Yeah. But now in retrospect, I know that I needed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think every woman does need it, right? Because we, especially type A women who plan everything down to the day, the minute, we expect ourselves to be prepared for anything. And then when that doesn't happen, that also can be a little bit of a recipe for shame. Because I remember when I had my first, I was prepared for like, okay, worst case scenario is I'm going to be in labor forever. And then the doctor's going to say it's not working. We have to do a C-section. So that was like the worst case scenario in my brain. Well, when I had my baby, there was a problem and they took her from me and put her in the ICU right away. And so I'm never in a million years prepared for like something being wrong with baby. I just assumed I was going to be the problem. And so I think we just don't really
Mm.
understand what we're getting ourselves into. And I wish that somebody would have said, like, hey, lots could go wrong. And it's quite funny when you think about it retrospectively now. It's like, well, yeah, because I was a single woman, married, but like I didn't have a child, right? So it was all about me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have this baby and it's no longer about me anymore. And how funny that immediately I was like, is everything okay with her? And it's a scary thing, right? We think we're prepared, but we really have no idea what's coming down the pipe.
And with women experiencing all these new emotions, what is it that they need? What is it that we need? And what is self-care? Is it hot showers, massage, nail appointments? Is it more? And how can it be sustained and provide meaningful benefits as women go through this transition?
Yeah. I think it's all very much up to that individual. Like,
Okay.
what is it that you need, right? There is not one size fits all when it comes to self-care. I think you just really have to figure out what it is that's important to you and that's going to recharge your battery, because some people like to be social, some people like to be with themselves, read books, go for walks, other people want to go to the gym. And so those things all just very much differ depending on who you are and what recharges your battery. But I know that there is a lot of expectation around self-care, which is hilarious because it's like, how could you put on more pressure on women about something that is supposed to bring us joy? But society does it. So I have a lot of women sit in my office and tell me, like self-care is really hard for me because they don't have time. And,
Mm-hmm.
they see these things on social media where it's like self-care isn't going to the grocery store and self-care isn't this and isn't that. And then they feel shame about, well, I actually really enjoy doing that by myself and that brings me joy. So now it's not self-care and therefore like there's a bit of guilt around that.
Interesting. I loved going to the grocery store when my son was a newborn. It was like freedom.
Yeah. But I mean, even if it's like, hey, husband, can you take baby for 2 hours while I go to Costco and get myself a coffee? That's self-care. If you
Yeah.
feel that that's recharging your battery, right?
Sometimes you don't know what you need
Yeah.
during that phase.
Mm-hmm.
Right. One day blends into the other and you just forget when was the last time you had a shower or did your hair, and it's just like, I don't know what I need.
Yeah.
I need to sleep. I know I need to sleep.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah. And to add to the guilt, one thing I felt very strongly was that I really missed my old life.
Yes.
And I was really struggling with that feeling because, of course, I loved my child more than anything. And that made it even harder because I loved him so much. I was just so invested in his well-being constantly. I completely forgot about myself and what I needed. That's why I was saying I'm not sure I would have been able to answer that question about what I needed. But I really grieved my old life for a while. And so I wonder if you can explain a little bit what that ambivalence looks like for women. It's like loving your child more than anything and yet wanting to be that free single person again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there is a lot of guilt, mom guilt with that. And I think this is where I like to bring in the idea of two truths. And so,
Oh, I love that idea.
yeah, like you can absolutely love your child more than anything and be the best parent and sacrifice everything and still miss your old life and want components of things in your life to be just about you. Those two truths can coexist and you're still a great mom. And so we really like to talk about like, if you're burnt out and you're running on empty and you're explosive because mom rage is at an all-time high because you're overwhelmed, then maybe taking a step back and investing in yourself again, whatever that looks like. Get your nails done, go to the gym, go for a walk, read a book, lock yourself in your room for 20 minutes and just have some time, right? Whatever it is that you need to do, because then you come back and you're regenerated and you feel better and you're able to connect with your baby more, right? Your toddler, your child in general, because the trust and I like to remember that 12 months postpartum is almost healing. And then the 24 months postpartum is kind of when everything goes back to normal. But those 2 years is profound for a woman. It's an absolute identity loss and trying to reshape who we are and where we're going. And especially for women who have babies back to back, like that is a whole other
Mm.
ball game, right? So you're postpartum, you're not even healed and you're already pregnant, your hormones are jacked back up again. And so then it takes even longer to get back to who you want to be or who that person is that you're going to be on the other end because you don't even know yet.
When we go back to quote unquote normal, it's not actually normal, right? Like, I don't feel like the same person.
You're not.
And I don't think I will ever go back to being that person that I used to be before I had my child. Sometimes I look at photos, and I'm not even talking about the physical aspect. I don't recognize that person. I'm like,
Who is that girl?
I just think differently. I approach situation differently. I value different things. I prioritize differently.
Absolutely.
It's just like I am a completely new person. Does it happen to most women?
I would say most women experience that. Yeah. It truly is an all over and body encompassing transition, right? Like it's never linear. It's changing and evolving all the time as our babies grow. We move into new seasons, the life changes, and all of that is kind of like a growing pain. We adjust and rebalance our identity again. So who you were and who people thought you were before you had kids, if they haven't seen you, they don't know you anymore. You're a totally different person.
Yeah.
But I like to explain it to clients. It's like, isn't that a beautiful thing? We're not meant to stay in one place. We're supposed to grow, change, evolve, right? And so you're growing into your motherhood. You're a mother now. What a beautiful experience, right? And like we talked about how significant this change is and what it does to the brain. Like it actually causes long-lasting change in the gray matter. And so when we link that to our social understandings, our emotional attunement, attachment, empathy, it totally rewires every aspect of us, right? So we want that because women are supposed to bond with their babies. It's a mother's instinct, and our brain rewires to make sure that it happens. And so studies show it all the time. They show scans of like mothers holding their babies. And then when baby starts to cry, it like ignites something in mom and there's like a connection there. And it really activates everything in their body, right? Your babies cry, how they're breathing, you know, if their breathing has changed, their facial movements, emotional signals, like our amygdala just becomes more reactive in wanting to protect our child. And so that is such a profound thing in itself. It's going to change a woman. There's no way around it, right?
I wish these changes were more celebrated as opposed to feared and daunted, and we don't talk about those enough. And so women are left alone grappling with them as opposed to it being like a collective conversation and them feeling part of they're part of something bigger. They're part of a community of women experiencing the same thing. And like you said, it's beautiful as long as there's this level of awareness and acknowledgement and celebration. But when you experience it on your own, alone in the dark, feeding your baby at night, you know, down the rabbit hole of TikTok, it just doesn't feel beautiful or celebratory.
Right. It doesn't. It feels scary and very lonely.
It feels scary.
Yeah. And very lonely. And I think that is, you know, I like to say to women, having a therapist on hand, like having a really good therapist that you align with before you enter motherhood. So they're kind of like on speed dial, you know, like I'm here waiting, ready for you whenever you need it, because there's going to be times where you just need someone to connect with. And sometimes, especially if you're like the first woman in your friend group to have a baby, I remember I was the last woman in my group of friends to have a baby. And I'm like texting every single one of them when I had my daughter being like, I'm so sorry. I didn't get it until now. I should have been a better friend. Because you just don't know, right?
You don't know until you've lived it.
Yeah.
It's just impossible.
It is impossible. And so I just feel like trying to connect with people who get it is the best thing that you can do. And sometimes that's not your lifelong friend or your mom or your sister. Sometimes it's someone who's in the exact same season of life and is like, I'm here waiting in the water with you. I get it. Like, I've got you, and vice versa, right? that's probably the best support system that you could have in the moment, is someone who just really gets it.
I also recently, and it's been 8 years, so it took a long time, rediscovered parts of myself that I thought were gone.
Yes.
That, have reemerged in a different form. Like, for example, I've always been a creative person, and I'm reconnecting with that side of me with this podcast, for example. And I wonder if you hear that from women too, when they thought some parts of themselves were gone, and after many years, those resurface in a different way or in the same way, and they're like, oh, it's almost like you're meeting yourself again. It's like, oh, this is me.
It tends to happen usually when kiddos go to school, because then mothers are like, what are the things that you kind of put on the shelf and now you can bring back down? And I think that's a really beautiful time too, to rediscover what parts of you left behind that you want to bring forward, and what parts of you want to explore, knowing all of this new information about who you are today, because you weren't that person 8 years ago. And so we have like this really nice blend of old Camille coming into new Camille, and like where that future Camille is gonna go, right?
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, you can follow wherever you get your podcasts, or share it with someone who might need to hear it too. Until next time, be bold, be kind, and don't apologize for holding both. I'm Camille, and this was Kind of Bold.